Luna had never experienced gentle treatment or felt a soft touch that didn't cause her suffering. For many years, this African leopard existed in terrible fear, stuck in a world filled with cruelty. When rescue workers discovered her at a hunter's camp, Luna was huddled in a dark corner, shaking so hard that her whole body trembled. Nobody could come near her. Nobody could make contact. Every try to help was answered with panic. She would hide, make threatening sounds, even shut her eyes tight as if wishing everything would vanish. Then a woman called Sarah Mitchell did something nobody saw coming. And what she did amazed everyone and transformed Luna's life completely. Sarah drove into the parking area of the Second Chance Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, getting out of her vehicle into the cool morning atmosphere. The sun was coming up, making long shadows on the ground. This day should have been like any regular workday, but the second she walked inside, she noticed the concerned expression on Director Williams's face, a man who had seen hundreds of heartbreaking situations during his work. With a quick nod, Williams signaled for Sarah to come with him down the hallway to a separate area at the back of the building. The usual sounds of animals could be heard everywhere, but when they got to where they were going, everything was quiet. In the dark part of the separate area, Sarah spotted her, a beautiful African leopard curled up in the corner farthest away from everyone. Her strong body was still powerful, her golden coat with black spots shining under the weak lights, but her entire body shook without stopping. Her ears were pressed flat against her head pushed down so low toward the ground that she seemed like she was trying to become invisible. Sarah felt her chest get tight with emotion. Looking at the leopard's eyes and how she was acting, she right away knew this wasn't a normal situation. Luna wasn't just a wild leopard that had been caught. She was someone who had been treated very badly, kept in a tiny, dirty cage, never feeling a touch that wasn't painful. She's been like this for weeks, Director Williams said quietly, watching Luna with worried eyes. We've tried everything we can think of, but she won't let anyone get close. Watching how Luna hid, shook, and wouldn't look at anyone, Sarah knew this wasn't just being scared. This was a spirit that had been broken. After talking briefly about the leopard's condition and the failed attempts to get near her, Sarah did something no one expected. Instead of using the usual methods, she slowly sat down on the floor right in front of Luna's cage. No talking, no moving closer, no trying to touch her, just sitting there. You could see the surprise on Williams's face, but Sarah didn't pay attention. She put all her attention on Luna, completely believing in her approach. If sitting there all day was what it took, she would sit there all day. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Williams asked, confusion clear in his voice. "Building trust," Sarah replied softly, not taking her eyes off Luna. "Sometimes that's all we can do." Luna didn't move, didn't look at Sarah, didn't react in any way. But Sarah stayed. Minutes went by, then an hour, then 2. Everything stayed the same. Luna stayed curled up in her corner, body tight with tension, her whole world filled with fear. But Sarah wasn't leaving because she understood that the first step to healing was trust, and she was ready to wait. Sarah sat on the cold floor of the shelter, her legs crossed under her, her hands resting gently on her knees. Hours had gone by since she first sat down in front of Luna's cage, and she had hardly moved at all. The rescue center continued with its daily activities. Volunteers came and left. Dogs were taken for walks. People looking to adopt animals walked through. But none of that was important to Sarah. She kept her attention on the shaking leopard hiding in the corner of her cage. Luna still hadn't moved. She was curled up tight, her golden coat with black spots gleaming under the dim light. Her head was so low that her nose almost touched the concrete floor. Her strong body shook like a leaf in the wind, a never-ending earthquake of fear that wouldn't stop. But there was one difference Sarah noticed right away. Luna's ears weren't completely flat anymore. They were still low and careful, but there was a hint of something else awareness. She knew Sarah was there. Williams walked by several times, clearly doubting what Sarah was doing. But Sarah didn't mind. She didn't argue or try to explain, because right at that moment, Luna's ears moved again. It was barely visible, but Sarah saw it. She understood what it meant. "Still think this will work?" Williams whispered as he passed by again. "I have to believe it will," Sarah answered quietly, never moving her gaze from Luna. Sarah's whole being was focused on the fragile, scared soul in front of her. Time went by. She was patient. She had to be patient. Sometimes, other animals made noise, the sounds echoing through the shelter halls. Each time this happened, Luna's jumping got worse. Her shaking got stronger. She squeezed her eyes shut, as if trying to disappear. But she never moved away from Sarah. That by itself was progress Sarah could work with. After what seemed like forever, the room became quiet again, except for the occasional far-off sound of metal bowls or the soft sound of wind outside. Sarah breathed out slowly and carefully, and then made her first move. Without making any noise, she reached into her coat pocket and took out a small piece of cooked meat. The smell filled the air. Luna's nose moved slightly. Sarah put the food a few feet away from Luna. Not too near, not too far, just enough so that if she really wanted it, she would have to move toward Sarah. Then she waited. Luna didn't move for many minutes. Sarah kept her breathing slow and her posture relaxed. She wouldn't force the leopard. She wouldn't make the first move. This had to be Luna's choice. Another 5 minutes, then 10, then the first amazing thing happened. At first, it was almost impossible to see. A small movement of Luna's front paw, a twitch of her nose. Her body still shook, but she was smelling the air. Sarah held her breath. Then, so carefully, that it seemed like the world itself had slowed down, Luna moved forward a tiny bit. The movement was small, so small a single paw moved, pulling just an inch closer. Sarah's chest filled with emotion, but she didn't react, didn't move. Any sound, and the leopard might go back into herself. Another inch. Luna's eyes looked up just for a second. Their eyes met for the first time, and in that quick moment, Sarah saw something hidden under the fear. A question, a silent, unsure whisper in her broken spirit, "Can I trust you?" Sarah didn't answer with words. Instead, she simply stayed still and present, and finally Luna took another shaking step forward. Her nose went lower, closer to the small piece of meat on the ground. Another pause, another wait, then she grabbed it and ran back to her corner. Sarah felt tears come to her eyes, her hands making fists in her lap. It wasn't much, not complete trust. But today, for the first time in her life, Luna had willingly come closer to a human, and that was everything. The next morning, Sarah got to the shelter before anyone else. The sun had barely started to rise, creating a dim golden light through the windows covered with frost. The hallways were quiet, except for the occasional sound of animals moving in their cages as they woke up. Sarah took a deep breath before walking down the corridor. Today was different. Today, she wasn't just hoping for progress, she was expecting it. Yesterday, Luna had made a choice. She had moved toward her. No matter how small the step was, it meant something. As she got closer to the leopard's cage, she felt her heart beat faster. Would Luna still be curled in the corner, shaking like before? Or had something changed? Sarah reached the cage and stopped moving. Luna was watching her, not hiding, not shaking violently, just watching. Sarah's heart filled with emotion. Slowly, she sat down on the floor, doing exactly what she had done yesterday. Luna didn't jump back. That alone was progress, the way she didn't retreat, the way her ears moved in Sarah's direction. It was the beginning of something. Sarah breathed out, controlling her emotions before carefully reaching into her coat pocket. She took out another small piece of meat and put it between them. Yesterday, it had taken Luna almost an hour to move toward her. Today, she only hesitated for a minute. Her nose moved, her coat shining under the lights. And then she stepped forward, one paw, then another. Her entire body was still tense and uncertain, but she wasn't frozen anymore. She was moving. Sarah didn't breathe, didn't blink. Luna lowered her head. For a moment it looked like she might run away again, but then she took the food, not in a panic, not in fear, but with hesitation and thought. Sarah swallowed hard, keeping herself as still as possible for as long as possible. Then slowly, she turned her palm up in invitation. Luna froze, the piece of meat still in her mouth. Her eyes moved between Sarah's open hand and the floor. "Sorry for the interruption." Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. For a long time, nothing happened. Then the miracle Sarah had been waiting for. Luna moved toward her hand. Not much, just a tiny bit, but enough that her whiskers touched Sarah's fingers. Sarah's breathing stopped for a moment. She didn't pull away, didn't move, and then, just as quickly as she had come close, Luna stepped back. Sarah didn't let disappointment come in, because today, Luna had made the choice to approach her, and that meant everything. Luna's ears moved at the sound of Sarah's soft breath, and then, for the first time, her tail moved just a little. It was barely visible, a small, almost uncertain movement, but Sarah saw it. And for the first time since meeting Luna, she let herself hope this was only the beginning. The next morning, Sarah arrived at the shelter feeling more determined than ever. Luna had taken a step forward, a real purposeful step. And last night, when she thought about the moment again, she kept thinking about that tiny movement, her tail wagging. It wasn't much, barely visible, but it meant everything. As she got closer to the leopard's cage, she immediately saw another change. Luna had already seen her coming, not curled in the corner, not shaking violently anymore. Her ears weren't pressed back against her head anymore. They were alert, listening. Sarah felt her heart grow warm. She sat down on the floor in her usual place. Luna didn't jump back. That by itself was progress. She reached into her pocket, taking out another small piece of meat, and carefully put it between them. This time, Luna only waited for a few seconds, then slowly and carefully stepped forward one step, then another. Sarah stayed still, her body relaxed, her breathing calm. Luna's nose moved as she smelled the food, but this time, instead of grabbing it and running away, she looked at Sarah's hand. It was a silent question, a test of trust. Sarah swallowed hard. Slowly and carefully, she turned her palm up in invitation. Luna stopped moving. Sarah could almost see the battle happening in her mind. Fear versus curiosity. For a long moment, she did nothing. Then she made her decision. Luna leaned forward. Her whiskers touched Sarah's fingers. Sarah held her breath. Then the miracle she had been waiting for. Luna pressed her nose into Sarah's palm. Not by accident. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. "That's it. Luna," Sarah whispered softly. "You're safe now." Sarah felt tears come to her eyes. She stayed still, letting Luna take the lead. And then another step. Luna lowered her head slightly, her nose touching Sarah's skin. Sarah's heart beat hard. Slowly and gently she moved her fingers, touching Luna's fur lightly. The leopard jumped back just for a second but didn't pull away. Sarah's fingertips moved over her nose, barely touching, but enough for her to feel that this was different. This wasn't pain. This wasn't cruelty. This was kindness. For the first time in her life, Luna had let a human touch her, and Sarah knew there was no going back now. The next morning, Sarah got to the shelter before the sun came up. The air was cold, and the world outside was still covered with a thin layer of ice. The shelter was quiet, with only the soft sound of animals moving in their cages as they started to wake up. But Sarah wasn't thinking about the other animals her mind was on, Luna. Yesterday, she had let Sarah touch her for the first time. She had chosen to trust a human, even if just for a moment. Would today bring another step forward, or would fear pull her back again? She walked through the hallways, her heart beating faster as she got closer to Luna's cage. Then she saw her, and her breath caught. Luna wasn't pressed into the farthest corner. She was waiting. Her body still tense but not fearful. Her ears were halfway up, her green-gold eyes looking at Sarah. She had been expecting her. Sarah felt a lump in her throat. She slowly sat down on the floor, just like she had done every day before. And Luna, she didn't jump back. That by itself was a victory. She reached into her coat pocket, taking out another small piece of meat. But this time, instead of putting it between them, she held it in her open palm, a test. Would she take it? Luna's nose moved. Her body was still tense, though not shaking anymore. She stared at the food, then at Sarah's hand. Another battle happened in her mind, fear versus trust. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, very slowly, Luna moved forward one paw. Then another. Sarah stayed perfectly still. Luna lowered her head. Her nose touched Sarah's fingers. And then she took the food not in a panic, not in fear, but calmly. Sarah blinked quickly, pushing back the emotion growing in her chest. This was real progress. Luna was choosing to trust her. But what Luna did next was even more surprising. She lowered her head and gently pressed it into Sarah's open palm. A choice, a decision, a trust that wasn't forced or demanded, but freely given. Sarah let out a slow, shaky breath. Luna's tail moved slightly, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. The past still troubled her, but today she had taken her biggest step forward, and Sarah knew she was ready for something more. The morning air was cold as Sarah drove into the shelter parking lot. Today felt different. For weeks, she had come to Luna's cage, sitting on the cold concrete floor, waiting for her to trust. And yesterday, she had chosen her not just by taking food from her hand, not just by stepping forward, but by pressing her head into Sarah's palm. It had been the first time Luna had actively looked for comfort from a human. It was a moment Sarah would never forget, but now it was time to see if she was ready for the next step. She walked through the shelter halls, stopping at Luna's cage, and what she saw almost made her cry. Luna was standing there, not in fear, not unsure, but waiting. Her eyes met Sarah's without jumping back, without going to the corner, just recognition. Sarah felt her throat get tight, but she didn't let the emotion take over. Instead, she did something she had never done before. She slowly opened the cage door, carefully, without rushing, not forcing. Luna became tense, but didn't run. She watched, her ears moving up, slightly alert but not afraid. Sarah knelt down, holding out her hand again. Palm open, an invitation, a challenge. Would Luna step out? For a long moment, Luna didn't move. Sarah didn't push her, didn't urge. She waited, patient as always. Then Luna did something that shocked everyone in the shelter. She stepped forward, past the invisible line that had trapped her in fear for so long, past the space where she had spent days shaking in terror. She stepped towards Sarah, then stopped. Her nose moved, and she pressed her head into Sarah's chest. "You did it, girl," Sarah whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "You're free now." Sarah let out a shaky breath, wrapping her arms around the leopard as she relaxed into her hug. For the first time in her life, Luna had found safety. She had found connection, and this time she knew it was real, because this time she had chosen it. In the weeks that followed, Luna's change was amazing. She no longer shook. She took food directly from Sarah's hand without hesitation. She even allowed other workers to get close, though still carefully. But Sarah knew this was just the first step. Luna didn't belong in a metal cage, even with love. She belonged in the wild, where she could run free, where she could be herself. Sarah called a meeting with the management, presenting her plan to release Luna back into the wild. At first, there was strong opposition. Luna had become too used to humans. She might have lost her hunting skills. She might be in danger in the wild. But Sarah was firm. She hadn't rescued Luna to keep her caged forever. She had rescued her so she could live the life she was born to live, free and wild. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Director Williams asked during the meeting. "Once we release her, there's no going back." "I'm sure," Sarah replied with conviction. "Luna deserves to be wild and free. That's what we've been working toward all along." Finally, they agreed on a plan. Luna would be taken to a remote area in Etosha National Park, where there was a natural leopard population but little human contact. She would be fitted with a GPS collar to watch her progress, and before release, she would be retrained in hunting skills. For a month, Sarah worked very hard with Luna. Instead of putting food directly where she could reach it, she began hiding it, forcing the leopard to search, smell, and chase. At first, Luna was clumsy, as if she had forgotten her natural instincts. But slowly, with Sarah's patience, she began to remember. Her powerful muscles became tight as she jumped at the fake prey. Her eyes became sharp and focused. Each day she grew stronger, more confident, more ready. Finally, the day of Luna's release came. Sarah sat next to the transport cage during the long trip to the release location. The GPS collar was put on gentle and not bothering her. Luna lay calmly, sometimes looking at Sarah with eyes that no longer held fear. When they arrived, Sarah felt a strange emotion rise in her chest, sadness mixed with joy. Sad to say goodbye to the creature she had spent so much time and emotion on. Joy knowing that Luna would have the chance to live the life she deserved to live. The transport cage was put on the ground, the door facing toward the huge grassland that went on to the horizon. Sarah knelt beside it, looking into Luna's eyes one last time. There was no fear in those eyes anymore. No doubt, only calm and strength, and perhaps something that looked like gratitude. Sarah opened the cage door. Luna didn't rush out right away. She stepped out carefully, head held high, nose testing the new air. She looked around, studying the environment with curiosity and caution. Then she looked back at Sarah one last time. "Go on, Luna," Sarah said softly, tears starting to form in her eyes. "This is your home now." In that moment, there was a deep connection between human and beast. An understanding without words, a goodbye that didn't need to be spoken. After that, Luna turned away. At first, she moved slowly and carefully, but with each step she seemed to remember her true nature. Her walk became more confident, faster, and then, in a pure moment of freedom, she started to run. Sarah stood there, tears flowing down her face, watching Luna run toward the horizon. Her golden coat with black spots gleamed in the sunlight, her powerful body moving with the grace and strength that only truly free creatures can have. Luna ran and ran until she was just a small dot on the huge grassland, then disappeared completely. But Sarah knew this wasn't the end. This was a new beginning for Luna, a life without fear, without being trapped. 6 months later, Sarah sat in her small office at the rescue center, looking at the information from Luna's GPS collar. The leopard hadn't just survived, she was doing well. She had created her own territory, hunted successfully, and even joined the local leopard population. And most recently, the data showed a movement pattern that Sarah couldn't miss, the pattern of a mother leopard with small cubs. Luna hadn't just found freedom, she had found a family. She was creating new life, continuing the cycle of this rare African leopard species. Sarah pressed her hand against the screen, smiling through tears. Her work was done. Luna had become what she was born to be, wild, free, and unafraid. And perhaps, just perhaps, Sarah wondered, was there somewhere in Luna's cubs a part of their mother that still remembered the woman who taught her that not all humans bring pain? Was a part of Luna still carrying the lesson of trust and patience that Sarah had taught her? Sarah would never know the answer, but she knew one thing. The moment when Luna took the meat from her hand, the moment when the leopard chose to trust, had changed her forever. Because sometimes the most wounded hearts are the ones most capable of fierce love. And sometimes all it takes to heal is a gentle hand and endless patience. Did you enjoy this story? Would you have sat on that cold floor for hours, like Sarah did? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Patience heals more than force ever could. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.